just really good. I think Coach said it right after the game. It's probably as tight, as I've seen a football team kind of be happy for each other and just do the things that you're supposed to be doing at this point in time. And then, inside of our room, just really excited. Our guys, Sonic and Knuckles. It's official now, right? I've been warned that that's what they want to be called. So, Sonic and Knuckles are doing what we asked them to do. Certain things we do need to get better at. We'll continue to work at that, but we're headed in the right direction right now. As you can see, if you watch David, he is a huge fan of cartoons and Disney channels and Sonic and Knuckles and, the speed and then kind of also the brashness of Knuckles. And of course, I know about it because I have children, right? So Sonic and Knuckles, I think it works well. They love it. So I'm going to run with it.
You're not offended that PB&J didn't stick?
Well, I knew that PB&J was not going to be a nickname. It was more of a collection of how great they could be together. The PB&J, I told you guys from the get-go, nobody wanted to be known as Jelly. That was probably the biggest deal. No one wanted to be known as Jelly. And I mean, I guess I get it. There's a lot to that football players and they probably wouldn't identify so much with being Jelly. So I'll leave it at that.
You mentioned it, sort of referenced it, but to get Knuckles back, to get David here, long term for the next few years, extend that deal. How important is that? What does that mean for your offense and for your win?
Yeah, for the offense, first of all, it means that we got a guy that's willing to do anything, sacrifice for his teammates. You start there, and that intensity that he brings. And I think when Coach said certain players can elevate the people around him, I think that's what he does. The other thing it does is it gives us, as an offense, it locks up one of our weapons for a while. And we truly have two bell cows at the running back position, which is something that I haven't, had the privilege of being able to be around in totality. I've been around great backs, but guys that are putting together performances like they're putting together collectively. Their snaps are not as much as other people's snaps, but their production is on par with those other guys' production. So the collective whole, what he does for our room and what he does for our offensive room, is that there's a level of accountability that comes with David. When you have David, he holds other people accountable by holding himself accountable. So, in the building, I said this before, I see David, I see, Dan the same way, man. It's just like guys that, are leaders who do it the right way, who demand the most out of the people around them. If you got those guys in the locker room on the team, you got a great chance to win.
The snap counts there, Scottie. I mean, Dave frequently plays less than 50%. How unique is it that a player can have that level of impact with, that, I don't want to say small of a workload, and then on the other hand of that, how valuable is it that you don't have to put that much strain on him each week?
Both of them, if you kind of go back, it's kind of flip-flop from time to time. It just kind of works out differently. But, we talked about being built for the long haul. And when you talk about the long haul, when both of them are out there at the same time, which we've been able to do now a little bit more, we're starting to do that. There's things that we can schematically do to help us, but the truth of the matter is with backs, it's about the wear and tear on backs, how they come through week 13, week 14, how they feel. And if we can continue to get these guys at 50-50 or sometimes 60-40, either way, we can reduce the amount of hits that they're taking, but also we're just reducing the mileage. And they look so fresh when they're in the game. It's like next guy comes in, there's no hands on the waist, there's nobody bending over. And they have a look that they'll look at each other and just look, and they know, okay, I'm not 100% right now. Come in and you be 100%. So really appreciate that.
You just, go ahead. As I say, you mentioned at the top, Dan, in the post-game locker room, saying this is the tightest this group has been. Why do you think that's happening right now?
For a lot of reasons. I mean, I think we're calloused. The way that we practice in training camp, the things that we've been through. We've had players out, we've had players in. We've been through some things. We went through some things this past week. And in the whole of it, you just feel this team just tightening, just just getting tighter and knowing that whatever comes our way collectively, we can figure it out. And I think that's going to be the most critical point to what Dan is saying. And that's not only on the field, that's our coaches, and that's the building. It just, we've been together now a little bit. Guys understand what guys do well. We understand our deficiencies, and we're working to make sure that we continue to get better at those.
You were talking about expanding Jahmyr Gibbs' route tree, maybe not just out of the backfield. I know some of those plans kind of got put on the back burner with the injury. Is there plans to maybe reincorporate that as the season goes on?
If you watch, we're kind of growing week by week what we do with him. But at the same time, it's more connected to schematically what we can do to win football games. At the end of the day, we're going to do what we got to do. But there were some things now that are showing up in the game that, and then, of course, getting to where we were in the game, there were probably some more things that could have shown up, but they just didn't.
A lot of teams have two running backs and a plan to, use them both and for both of them to be productive. But with Gibbs and Montgomery, I think they each have over 70 scrimmage yards. And they each have 70-plus scrimmage yards in every game this year. No duo has ever done that in league history. Just how have you guys been able to not only have the plan, but implement it too, and each of those guys be so productive?
It's about execution. Really, the truth is, practice execution here is amongst the best that I've seen. I know you guys see us trying some of those, trick plays, and those things are highly, you think they got a lot of execution to them. Well, the base plays have as much execution to them as those plays. And to be able to execute when those guys are in there at that level in our offensive line, in our pass game, understanding placement in our checkdowns, and Jarrett knowing without a shadow of a doubt where these guys are going to be, it's a high level of execution. Right now, we can grow in our execution. We're nowhere near where we can be. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that. That's across the board, all of us, offensively at least. We're not at the top where we're going to be. We can play better than we played last week. There's no doubt about it in my mind, and we will. But at the end of the day, those 70 yards or whatever per player, per game, I'm so happy for them to have a record that no one else has. But they understand that the way we continue that, or the way that we continue to play well, is the way we go execute in practice. It's going to give Ben, the confidence to call it, but it's also going to give people around them the ability and understanding is if one of these two guys catch the ball, I am going to do everything I can do to extend a 5-yard gain into a 20-yard explosive. So that's what you're seeing a lot of right now.
Ask you these historical questions, and I respect that David is uniquely him, but does he remind you of anybody the way he runs with the shiftiness inside, but just the
not at that size
power?
Not at that size. I tell you, I don't like to compare greats ever, but at his size and speed and strength and contact balance, every week too, he's getting better. So he's not the same guy he was 3 years ago, right? 4 years ago, he's stronger, he's faster, he's quicker. So I'm just, it's like, watching somebody continue to grow. You're just watching a plant grow, and he's growing in all different directions. His protection, when he came here, one of the things he talked about, just the understanding of protection. And now he can run the protection meeting. So all these things that we see physically on the field, now what we're seeing away from the field is kind of going together and is making him take off. Really, the connection to his mind and his physical ability, I don't know if anybody that I've been around or I can been close enough to say that they're like him.
More challenge speed for David and Jahmyr this week, going up against Brian Flores' defense. Alexis, what's that much?
The challenge always is being able to be physical, all right? It starts with physicality, right? We have to go be physical with this group, but that's what people think in protection-wise anyway. But this week, it's going to be our mental, is how much the academia part of what they do and understanding how quickly we can accelerate our vision to our first, second, and potentially third read in protection, which we've been pretty good at. We can always get better at that, and it'll be a challenge. I mean, that's going to be the challenge. And then, the other part of it is, with the ball in your hand, you constantly got people on top of you. But the other part of that is if we do get to the second level, it provides a great opportunity to be able to create explosives. So we have a challenge. We look forward to accepting the challenge. They've been exceptional this year. Defensively, offensively, they've done really well. This is a really good team. They're aggressive on special teams. A really good club.
When TD was going through his like late season injury or like career injury stuff, Terrell Davis?
Yes, so I was on that team. TD, those was a different era of backs, right? We were primarily a zone team, and Alex Gibbs was the best in the world at creating those zone schemes. So I got to grow up in it and understand it and the details of it. But we had maybe two schemes. Right, right. We were running 1 to 2 schemes, and we became really good at running those schemes, and we had other guys that we plugged in, as Orlando Gary, Mike Anderson, Clinton Portis, and just name after name can continue to come in and plug in that scheme, and TD was amazing. First of all, just amazing player, but. This guy and these guys are running multiple schemes, and that's what makes Hank who Hank is, because any scheme that any of us bring to Hank, he's going to accept it and he's going to figure it out and work through it. And so we had multiple schemes these guys are running, and so we're not locked into a scheme. But TD was special.
Yeah, no, I wanted to ask you about that just in a different context with Aiden. I don't remember what everything that happened with TD, but being around that when you lose like just a bell cow, a great player to
Yes.
injury. Is there anything you learned from that situation that may apply now to help, the team get through what's a huge loss, obviously, that
The intangibles. Everybody else in the entire building, everybody, players, coaches, all the intangibles, you better have them now. We got to have them, right? We got to play harder, right? We got to finish. Our detail and our assignments and our alignments, they've got to be on point, all right? Because that's going to be the difference. Like that is we got guys, next guy will step in, no doubt, but everybody has to rally. And when we rally, we have to rally and take the energy that was what Aiden was. He was not only a physical talent and smart and had football IQ, but his intangible was he outplayed everybody. He played harder. He went harder. He took care of his body. So all those intangibles that he had, the rest of us that's the way we close the gap, by doing exactly what he did at a higher level.
Flip side of that, some good news coming last night. I know it's on the opposite side of the ball, but Lee McNeil just signed his big extension. How happy are you for him?
So happy. So happy. He's a Carolina boy, of course. I am as well. And just going back to some of the first times I've seen him playing baseball, it sounds funny. Fantastic baseball player. Fantastic. But a great football player as well. Really raised the right way. When you talk to him, you understand who he is, what type of person he is. This is one of those stories when you do things the right way, constantly, over and over and over again, and you play at the Detroit Lions, you can see with the people that we've signed since January or February, you play well here, you do things the right way. This place is the type of place that takes care of its own. So it's really, really good to see it, come together. And, for him and his family back in Carolina, this was a huge deal. He earned it. And it feels good to see guys get rewarded by the teams that they were drafted by and the teams that mean the most to them. Yes, so I've seen him play football. I've seen him play baseball, and yes, I've known him quite a while. He's a little bit of a legend, baseball and football down there, because you would not believe the level of athleticism that he had, and just to imagine him with the ball in his hands and 15, 16, 17-year-old kids trying to tackle him, or the flip side, one of those 15, 16, 17-year-old kids having the ball in their hand and him coming to tackle them. That's what I got to witness. All right, that's good. Take care.
What is the biggest challenge facing this defense, particularly as it comes to preventing the turnovers that they're so good at forcing?
Yeah, so they're a very multiple defense. They're a very attacking style defense. They come from a bunch of different areas. And so the biggest thing is to identify where they are, where they're coming from, and then be sound as far as throwing turnover or throwing interceptions, is being sound in the protection to give Jared time so that he can disperse the ball where it needs to go.
Does that come down to film studies or something else, some other tells that you look for? Like, what is the key when they're, everyone's sort of standing there, you don't know who's blitzing, who's not?
Yeah, you said it. Film study is a big part of it, and I think there's a growing sense of familiarity with him, being that it's his second year here. We played them a couple times last year, and now we've got a little bit more tape so that we can take a good deep dive and look at it. And we've, there's a couple of coaches on the staff that are really involved in the pressure pickup, in the blitz plan, and how we want to set our protections, and then that gets sent down the line to everybody else. And then really it's a matter of the O-line and the backs and the tight ends picking those things up. And then the quarterback, if he happens to be hot, knowing where he is and that he is hot and what his answer is. I think those are, and again, the film study is going to be a huge part of that for sure.
What have you liked most about the way Jared's played the last 2 weeks back-to-back 150-plus passer ratings? I think that's only happened one other time. Drew Brees is the name on that list, so not bad company. But just maybe is there one thing that you look at over the course of the last 2 games that you've really been excited about or really happy for him about?
Sure, I think the comfort level and really the trust in the players around him, that guys are going to be in the right spot, and then having a solid understanding of the game plan, and then just playing fast. Like, he's seeing it pretty well right now, and when you see it well, it's easy to get the ball out on time, and it doesn't go unnoticed that everybody's making plays all the way down the line from all the different players, all the different position groups. When the ball's getting thrown their way, for example, Tim Patrick's first third down last game, that's a heck of a play. And Jared gave him a chance, just like we talked about. Hey, just give him a chance to go get the ball, and he throws the ball in the area, and Tim went and made a great play. So I think all those things going together is really what's helping contribute to that.
Curious, Ben Johnson says all the time, the goal is to score a touchdown every drive, and I'm sure that's the mindset of every offensive coach, and you kind of did in a lot of ways, or at least scored every drive against Dallas, and we've heard the phrase empty the clip, and the aggression was there throughout the game downfield. And so do you learn anything from a game like that in terms of altering your identity, changing your mindset and approach going forward with the uncharacteristic level of success you had in that game?
To me, it just shows us what we're capable of doing. It's almost like you say you want to set your standard, and we have a high standard of ourselves and what we feel like this offense should be in this building. Now, granted, that was phenomenal. It's been a long time, I think, probably since any of us had been involved in a no-punt game. So credit to the guys for going out and executing the plan. But again, it shows us that we can do it, that if we're on our stuff and we're targeting things right, we're in the right spots in the pass game, the quarterback, as you said, is throwing the ball on time and getting it to the guys, then really, I guess the sky's the limit. And so we're just going to continue to try to push the envelope with this stuff and continue to be creative, continue to try to score points, have a little bit of fun, but be sound and be detailed in what we're doing. And that's really what we harp on all week, is just, it's always the little details that makes everything work. And if we're off just a little bit, then, you don't really get exactly what you want. You don't get those scores every play or every series.
The message, I think, what guys tried to convey publicly is certainly Jared saying the game didn't mean anything more, but, some guys kind of let it leak that it did matter more, right? And so there was like an emotional element to that game. How do you tap into that weekly to get your guys to just want to play at a higher level than 100%, if you will?
Yeah, I think you're always chasing perfection, right? And Coach has been doing a great job promoting and saying, like, it's just the next game. It's the very next game that matters the most. And that's exactly the case. Like last week, Dallas was the most important game. It was the most important thing. And the guys had a great week of practice. And then this week, guess what? The most important game is this week against the Minnesota Vikings, the division leader. And so it's going to be on us to get the guys prepared and them to have a great week of practice with that same intensity. I mean, how do you make it to the playoffs? First off, you got to win your division. They're 1-0 right now in it, and we haven't had a division game. So we got to start off this week by putting the next foot forward on the next opponent, which is Minnesota.
You've had a bunch of different jobs through your coaching career to this point. What's it like when you're that guy, and this week, Brian Flores, let's pick up, that's your job, to be that guy to sort of help figure that out or come up with the plan. What's that like?
It's a challenge. I think every week is a challenge, and this week maybe even a little bit more so because it's such an aggressive style defense. I mean, you relish the opportunity. You accept that challenge that you have to find a way to beat that scheme and to find a way to get our players in the right spot at the right time. And part of that, and as you guys know, Ben is a great play caller, and that is a huge part of it too, is him getting the plays at the right time. And again, that goes through the film study, and then us as we game plan it in the back behind the scenes is how do we get those guys, which guys to get into the right spots in, against what defenses, personnels and formations and those types of things.
Pretty unique with their defense. They haven't allowed a touchdown outside of the red zone this year. They really do a good job limiting the explosives. Obviously something you guys do really well. Just how big is that component this year, and what makes them so good in that regard that they make you really just earn it?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. They play a lot of this shell defense, right, with a too high safety look. And then when they're not, they're bringing pressure. So they're really forcing the ball to come out quick, whereas you may not be able to hold on to it as long and push the ball down the field quite as much. And so I think that probably contributes on both ends to that not happening as much, So if you're outside of the 30, you might get some of that stuff, that too high shell, and then they even play pressure with that. So it'll be a challenge again for us to try to find the opportune time to see if we can't get that ball vertically over the top.
When you're in the lab trying to essentially come up with answers for the problems that they present, is there any part of you or just the way you think about offense that benefits from going against a defense that's so unique it forces you to kind of think about things in a different way?
Yeah, I suppose. I think you're always trying to think outside the box, with some creativity to some degree, but then you also have your core foundation that you're always going to have there that you're going to lean back on. And so really for a team like this, it's about the rules. What are your rules on all these different plays? And then how can we maybe expand that just a little bit to take advantage of some of the things that they do, and again, try to get our guys where they need to be. So it's pretty fun.
To deal with questions from us about where's Amon-Ra in week 1 or where's Sam Laporta in week 2. And I mean, the reality is you guys have so many weapons that not everybody can eat outside of in Dallas, apparently. I'm curious, every receiver, every offensive player wants the ball. They want to have an impact. And so what is the nature of your team's unselfishness, and how do you as a coach, make sure those guys are feeling up and part of it when maybe the statistics or the balls aren't there for them?
Sure. I think it starts at the top with the head coach, and just our identity as a team. The team is first here in this building, and I think all the guys live up to that. And of course, all the wide receivers, all the tight ends, everybody wants the ball. They're all playmakers in their own right, and it'll come to them at the right time. I think just all of them are very unselfish. They're determined to be the best that they can personally be, which in effect is going to help the team be the best that they can be. And it's going to come, right? I think Saint actually, he's almost in the top 10, I think, in total receptions with one less game than the rest of the league. So, whether he's, behind his trend from last year and whatnot, it's maybe not that far off, but we'll see how it goes. But we're very fortunate to have a lot of different guys all over the place that the ball could go to at any moment.
Outside of quarterbacks, I'm just curious, anyone catch your eye that can sling the football?
Say that one more time, I'm sorry?
Outside of the quarterbacks, has anybody on offense caught your eye that can sling the football?
Oh yeah, there's some guys that can throw it. Every year in the spring, we do a throwing contest to see who might be involved in throwing those things. So we'll see who it happens to be at what point. I can't let the trade secrets, get out of here.
You guys put up 30 points against Flores and the Vikings both games last year. So how is their defense better or different now than it was a season ago?
Yeah, they're in year 2 of their scheme, year 2 of their system. So I think that they're a little bit more well-versed in what they really want to do and how they want to attack the teams. They've got really good personnel. They've got some solid linebackers that they play with. They're really, really good in the secondary, led by the safety 22, who's been there a long time. And up front, they can get after the quarterback. So I think things are just kind of fitting in for them as they kind of progress in their scheme with the players that they had and the players that they brought in. So it's just improvement.
There was Van Ginkel had the interception, and he kind of revealed like he watches what the first step of the offensive line or the center maybe. Is that a common defensive strategy, or when a player says something like that, is that like the nuggets you guys as a coaching staff pick up and are, suddenly more aware of?
I think every defense has their little nuances, and, he might be talking about trying to show a cover zero, and he's dropping out of there if somebody maybe does something that he sees. And again, that goes into our film study as well, as to what do they tend to do in those different looks, if you will. And for us, it's kind of, we alert the guys to what may happen. We can't tell you what's going to happen on that given play, but things that they have done, then our guys will definitely be aware of that.